Hey folks, welcome back. So let's take a look at what we got in the pantry today to test. Just a bunch of, I don't know, I'm not really feeling these today. What do we got up here? Maybe, we got something coming after this. Still working on stuff on that. But, oh, whoa, what about this? Oh yeah, that's right. No, I'm just kidding. So of course, this is the SRC MP5 CO2 version that just came in the mail. I had a long wait for this one, but it finally got here. And let's do some shooting reviews of this this bad boy right here. So as promised, this is the SRC MP5, the CO2 version that I finally got in. And this is going to be a real treat for y'all right here. This gun, to be clear, came originally as the collapsible stock version. So it came with this stock right here, and it's the one with the rubber padding in the back. So this is kind of more like the newer, from what I've read, it's more like the Navy style stock, and not the old school stock like you'll see on the WE MP5. I'm actually not a huge fan of these stocks. They work pretty well, don't get me wrong, they're pretty comfortable, but looks-wise, I don't really like it. The other thing is that it's a little bit wobbly, to be honest with you. So when you have it fully retracted, it kind of wobbles up and down, and it's not bad or anything, it's not anything that will make you think twice about it, but it's just kind of a little bit annoying. And I also have the other MP5 I have already has the old school style stock that I like, the collapsible one. So there's no point in me having two of collapsibles, and one of them I don't even like. So I replace it with one, the the full stock version. So this is now technically would be called the MP5A2. Usually the A3s or odd A5s, any odd number ending of it is going to be the collapsible stock version, and any even number, A2, A4, will be the full stock version. This is the AEG version, but we'll go more into that later in a different video. Anyway, this is just a quick overview of what's going on with this gun right here. This is a really, really good gun. To be honest with you, when I first got it out of the box out here, we'll go with that later, but it looked pretty, it looked like a cheaper version of the WE. They seem to have cut corners here and there, but for now, after a couple of usage, I went through a bunch of different magazines, it actually has its strength, and the point here is that this gun, obviously it's different from the WE MP5, because its configuration, I have it in here, and the grips, the lower grips and everything, but they actually offer different things, and so I don't think they're actually directly comparable. It just depends on what you want. So, to start off with the basics though, again, they do come in available as a collapsible stock, or a full stock version, or a folding stock version. They're just depending on which ones you want. This one has now been converted. Has your typical, just your typical MP5 platform. This one particularly is the SES safety group. So as you'll notice, this one will fire a safe, single auto and single semi-auto, and then full auto or sustained fire here. It clicks very nicely here, actually. The selector switch itself looks kind of cheap. It looks kind of like plastic. That's not even polymer of some sort. But it clicks very nicely into place. So even if I try to not make a noise, it will still make these clicks. Very distinct. So that's a huge plus for it. Of course, you don't get, since this is not the ambidextrous grip, you're only going to get it on one side and not the other side right here. But you'll see it shift around when you're changing it like that. Okay, so that's that part right there. So that part's the lower grip's gonna be a little bit different here. The texturing on this, actually, the finishing of the paint, you'll notice that this one is actually a matted black finish compared to the WE version. It's more of a shinier coated finish. which you know, personal preference wise, I like this one better. But I've done some research, and it looks like there's both of them. There's some MP5s I've seen that look kind of like matted black like this, and some that are a little bit shinier. So I don't know. It's up to you which one you really want. The other thing is, of course, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this, of course, doesn't include the 3-round burst function like the WE. This is just the old school selective fire in 2 different modes. Anyway, the grip down here is contoured, so you'll notice that this is the traditional, or the older grip right here, and they're contoured in a way that's more. This is with me holding my left hand. It's not as comfortable as if you were to hold it with your right hand, where it was kind of designed to so your thumb falls into the grooves, and then your index finger lands there. Not that it's a big issue, but it is something I want to point out. I personally like the ambidextrous trigger packs better because they don't have these grooves here. Because unless your fingers specifically fit neatly into the groove, they actually can be kind of annoying because you often hear those folks who complain about those blocks that because they're grooves there and they don't fit in the fingers. Well, I kind of finally feel their pain now, except for the MP5. Anyway, but again, it's not a huge deal. I just want to make sure that's clear. Since I'm on the topic right now, this is the AEG version of the stock I bought. I'm sure the full version is going to be the same, but of course it has that you can open it this way and reveal the back. You can put whatever you want in there. I don't know, cleaning kits, I don't know, extra BBs, CO2 cartridges, I don't know. But and it snaps on back into place. Alright. Functional wise, we'll show you some shooting test videos in a minute. I put a little rubber band around here for the cocking lever here because unlike the WE version, this one's a little bit flimsy in the sense that it rattles around quite a bit. Not that it's bad in it, but it just rattles around. The material that they use for this inner cocking tube right here is kind of like a thinner, hollow aluminum, whereas on the WE version it's more, I think it's steel, it's a lot heavier, and it doesn't wiggle around as much. So putting a little rubber or band around this helps kind of cushion it a little bit, and helps prevent a little bit of a wobble. There's still quite a bit, but it helps a little bit there. The sights back here, you're going to get the same type of diopter sights as all the other MP5s. Material's a little bit different. I kind of felt it was a little bit cheap at first because this part kind of wiggles around quite a bit. You'll see right here. And the clicks, it does click as you switch different apertures, but they're just not as clean cut as the WE version. So that was like my negative. I had a negative impression when I first saw that. I was like, "Wow, you guys are just stiffing me." Because this is a cheaper gun, you kind of get what you pay for, I guess. And same thing with there. The materials here, the cocking tube, hollow, maybe aluminum of some sort. If you'll notice here too, this front end cap right here also kind of loose. But fortunately, and then this is actually part of the barrel, but it's kind of a cheaper metal, maybe zinc or nickel alloy or something like that. This actually came though with a thread suppressor though, or a thread protector, which is good. I had to actually order it separately. This right here and threaded protector right here comes separately. You have to ship it. You only pay for the shipping cost, but you have to get them separately. Otherwise, it comes with that bird cage A2 flash hider glued on there, so I just melted it off. Same MP5 style wide forearm grip right here. This one looks nice from the side, looks realistic from the profile view with this, but if you were to turn it forward, this looks a little bit unusual. These MP5s, the foregrips aren't really supposed to stick out like that. They're supposed to taper in, and I'll show you in a little bit with the when I compare this to the WE version. But I just want to give you a little rundown. So this is what I was talking about. So you'll see here, this is the SRC version, right? You'll see the little foregrip right there. There's that extra space right there, which I don't think is really realistic because I can't find any MP5 that has that. Compare that to the WE version, well, you'll see the foregrip, it's tapered, so you don't see that little dead space, so to speak, right down there. And that's how it should be. Now, I don't know if you can buy, the real MP5 parts from hkparts.net and just replace that. I'll have to figure that out, and I'll tell you all in a little bit. While I'm on the topic, before I forget though, another thing is the front barrel. This is technically it's supposed to be part of the barrel in the real MP5, but in reality, it's just, a lot of folks might call it the flash suppressor. But either way, these tips are a little bit different. So this is obviously more of like a steel on the WE version, and this is more of like a nickel, like I mentioned earlier. This didn't come with a thread protector though. You'll also notice that I changed out the stock of this, so you won't see it as dramatic in the videos, but the stock right here, the rails here are like a very, very high quality metal. Comparing that to the other version, or the SRC version, where it's kind of a flimsier metal there that's thinner. So that's actually another big difference. However, you will notice that though there's, on the WE version, there's only one rear sling mount right here, and that's it. Nothing on the other side right here. But if you look at this version, the SRC version, there's that same sling mount in the rear right there, as you can see. But then there's also, if you flip it over, another one right down there as well. So there's on the lower half. So there's one down here and one right here, which is kind of cool. Again, they're just slightly different. And again, this is two position. There's only an in or an out. This actually has 4 positions. So again, this isn't really a video to compare the two. This is more just of a review of the SRC version. Front sight post looks like it's hard to tell. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But it looks like it's of pretty good quality. I can't tell you whether it's for sure it's metal or heavier plastic, but it does look kind of a good quality though. All right, so magazines. This magazine actually is pretty good. This is going to feel a lot thinner and smaller than the WE magazine. But I like this one better because you don't see the cutout here, so it looks more realistic. You don't see those BBs like in the WE version. Which, by the way, I found out they sold those. They sell these closed versions for the WE version, but they're like $60 a pop. They're more like the collector edition. So this one looks kind of realistic. It has like the MP5 little hole right there. CO2 version, so you strip it open like that by pressing that button, and then that's where you will reveal the port where you put in the CO2 cartridge, just one of those, and then you turn it. You can use a screwdriver, which I do most of the time, or you can use something like a quarter to adjust it. Sometimes it's just easier with a screwdriver because you might have to twist it a little bit more. But that's it. And it's really nice because unlike the WE version, this one looks really, really realistic because it looks like they're stacking it. So as you fire the gun, the round's first on the right now, but the next one will be on the left, and it'll go back and forth. So just like the real one. Whereas with the WE version, they're just like they're double stacked, but they feed up into a single point, so they're always in the same point. Over here, it looks more realistic. Be careful when you're loading these magazines. They come with these. Where is it? They come with this speed loader here, which is really designed specifically for this gun, this magazine. I don't think you can load these at least efficiently and easily with different speed loaders out there. This is kind of, it attaches onto the front like this, and then you kind of just go down like so and insert it. I would just click it about 8 times. This is empty obviously right now, but I would just click it no more than 8 times to give you a total of about 30 rounds. It could store about 35, but the problem with you push down to 35 is this part right here gets pushed down to here where it can stop, but for some reason it jams and it causes the spring to be stuck down there. And so when you're firing, maybe the first couple of BBs will come out, but then because the spring is still stuck there, it's not pushing up the round, so you'll find yourself shooting just a bunch of blanks. So to prevent that, just load it with about 8 clicks, which is about 30 rounds, which is you know, for you folks out there who want the realism, it's more realistic that way. Trademarks, not much different from the WE version. There is one difference, though. I mean, sorry, same thing. You still got that 9x19 marking right there on the bottom. And then, of course, the caliber marking on the side of the receiver. And then the new part is it has these serial numbers as well as a little eagle, the German eagle, on top. It's where they normally are. It doesn't say HK MP5 on here like the real one, but at least it still has some of this stuff. So that's actually a new addition right there. Again, I really like this model, though. I'm a huge fan of it. I think this is just an overview. I got a lot more things to show y'all, but in the next video, I'm going to make a comparison and really argue that you're not picking one over the other based on its costs, because at least you shouldn't, because you're not really paying one isn't more quality than the other. It's just that they're just different, and they kind of have different things to offer you, and it depends on just what you're looking for. Yes, you are paying more for the WE version, which is like 400, maybe 450. This runs for about almost 300 bucks. Fairly new on the market, so there aren't a whole lot of parts for it just yet. But I think in time you'll be able to get some more, I think. But yeah, so far it's an awesome piece. And let me know what else you want to see, and then we'll get to specifics. But let me show you how it looks like, by the way. Even the realism, the loading is more realistic too. There you go. So let's get to some of the shooting tests. This gun shoots about 460 FPS on average, by the way, with a fresh CO2 tank. So, roughly with each of these CO2 tanks, you can get about 100 rounds out of it, depending on how fast you shoot. But it's really fun shooting CO2, as I found out. You're not as worried about the cool-off effects as you are with the green gas. So that last video you saw with me shooting, that was more like a half-full tank. So I'm going to empty this tank right here, and we'll fill up with fresh one to see how it really performs. Here's on semi, by the way. Now let's go to full. Yeah, so this one's running dry. So this is how we refill the magazine here. Press this out. Pull this out. Use a screwdriver in this here. See right here. Sometimes it gets stuck in here, and you kind of have to. It normally falls out, but sometimes it does get stuck. You kind of have to like push it out. But anyway, this is the new one right here. And depending on how fast you turn it, because you don't want gas to leak out. There we go. That's why the screwdriver is better, because you can spin it faster and prevent less gas from leaking out. So this is what it looks like, by the way, when you're loading it. So you'll see it come down. There we go. I think that's a good amount. And then we'll slide it right back into its housing unit right here. All right. Let's try it again. And this one, it's nice because it actually has that last round. It stopped shooting the last round. So I'll show you in a second. So let's just do the full auto first. Oops, there we go. Hope you guys can see that. Okay, so as you can see, it keeps firing. Now, it stopped firing not because it's out of gas, but because the bolt slopped, not bolt slopped back, but the round has stopped firing because you can't, there's no more rounds in it. So it helps you prevent wasting of gas and dry firing. So you'll notice that when that happens, it's out. So to reload it, you basically just pull the charging handle back, get in a fresh magazine. But that was just more a demonstration of how it fires full auto. But let me show you something here that's kind of interesting. Okay, so I just put in about, let's try, let's do like 3 or 4, I don't know how many rounds it is, a couple rounds, right? Watch this. So, if you don't have to be worried about taking the magazine in and out of the gun in this case. So I'm going to switch it to semi to show you. So, okay, so, if I don't know how many rounds there are, you can still pull out the magazine, right? There aren't any rounds in the magazine. But if I pull it out, you can still, and put the magazine back in, you'll still be able to fire it. Whereas WE, if you do that, you won't be able to fire it, even though there's still a round in the chamber. So watch, I pull fire again. Now it's locked back, right? So now we're completely out. And if I try to pull the trigger, it won't fire, right? Watch. The click, because the last round's been fired. Had you done that in WE, it wouldn't have worked that way. So you may not really care what that's all about, but basically, because oftentimes, especially when you have a gun that you don't know how many rounds are left, you want to be able to take the magazine in and out, but you don't want to sacrifice that last round. Just like a real gun, if there's 1 round left in the chamber, you should still be able to fire it, right? Again, the WE, you put in you're on your last round, and you decide to pull out your magazine, right? And you notice there's no BBs left, and you put it back in the gun, and even though there's still a round in the chamber, you pull the trigger, it's going to click because it won't fire. This won't do that, so this will actually be pretty realistic for you if you're really into that. But I hope that helps. Well, that's a little bit long for a first brief overview video, but I hope that shows you a little bit a gist of what's going on with this new MP5 and kind of what we've got in stock and what we got to show later on. So let me know what you guys want to see about this. I'm going to try to do more and more videos, more shooting tests, especially a comparative video between the MP5 WE version and the SRC version, because I think a lot of you folks really like that. So as always, if you found this content fun and helpful, give us a thumbs up, help subscribe, and support our channel. See you folks next time.